Welcome to Week 5 of the CFL Weekly Pickup Show on the Grizzly Crew Sports Network. The CFL Weekly Pickup Show is brought to you by PEMF, Replenishing Care Technologies. You can go to the website, grizzlytruth.net, click on the banner for Replenishing Care. It'll take you right there. I'm your host for the Pickup Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now I want to welcome in one of my co-hosts, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
I'm doing good. Hope everybody's had a great weekend and hope everybody's having a good start to the week.
All right, and next up, he was lost in the mountains last week, so he couldn't be with us. Help me welcome former Syracuse Orangeman legend, played for the Eagles for a little while, and more importantly, a 5-time Grey Cup winner. Help me welcome to the show, Robert Drummond. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing pretty good, and I wasn't actually I was camping in the mountains. I wasn't lost. I was camping, so
same damn
make
thing.
that clear. Pretty much, it is.
Yeah,
I'm not an outdoor person. I'm a city type person. I'm not an outdoor type person, but it's a great experience.
All right, guys. Another interesting week, and the Saskatchewan game. They squeeze out an 18-13 win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats on Thursday night, which kicked off the week. The two sides traded blows throughout the evening in a low-scoring affair. This game really shocked me, Brian. I did not think Saskatchewan would win this game, but I think the one thing it showed us is if they can get Collaros back, their defense might be good enough to keep him in some of these games to stay relevant until then.
Yeah, and we touched on that last week. I mean, the key for them is, in a lot of teams, when you lose your quarterback, is you've got to figure out a way to just stay relevant and stay around until you get that piece back, and that's what they did. And very surprising game. I got to see some of this game, and especially the second half, and just a very great defensive effort by Saskatchewan, but also a great defensive effort by Hamilton. Again, obviously, Saskatchewan did not have the quarterback, but I tell you what, you really got one person we have not mentioned is, the defensive coordinator for Hamilton. He's put some great game plans together the last 2-3 weeks. Yeah, it really has improved their defense. And, help me with the name here because my brain just shut down on the name. And Jerry Glanville, thank you. My brain completely shut down. But, Glanville's put some pretty good defensive schemes together. So, really interesting game just from both teams' standpoint. I was surprised that Saskatchewan won, but they showed a lot defensively, and Hamilton continues to play good defense.
Yeah, and Jeremiah Masoli did not play well this week, Robert, but I don't think that should affect him. He's played well all season. He had the one turnover. What's your take on Masoli? I know you thought he was going to have a good season, and he has so far.
I like Masoli a lot. He's a consistent quarterback. As I say, he had one bad game. It was a defensive struggle. And the one thing that came to mind, thinking about this game is that, the importance of a backup quarterback, not just in the CFL, but any league that plays football. Someone who can step right in. It may not be as adequate as a superstar, but adequate enough, to take over the reins, and run the team. You take the Philadelphia Eagles last year, and when Carson Wentz went down, Nick Foles steps right in, and what do? They go on and win the Super Bowl. People don't realize the importance of having a very educated, very, high IQ backup quarterback to fill in case something happens to your starter. Collaros, it's definitely as a quarterback to make that team run. And you're right. I'm surprised Saskatchewan won that game also, but it was a defensive battle. Defense wins championships, and you need a quarterback that can just go out there and manage the game and be a heady player and go win a championship.
Yeah, and that's what Brandon Bridge did. He was 11 for 13. He ran the ball well. He didn't turn the ball over, I don't think. And the difference in this game was, in a tight, low-scoring game, Saskatchewan ran the ball a little bit better, and I think the quarterback play by Bridge was a lot more efficient than what Masoli was in this game.
He didn't lose the game. Coach Matthews used to always tell our backups when they came in the game, just don't lose the game. Let our talent. The Saskatchewan by far, I think, is a better talent. And just let the talent win out. Just don't lose the game for us.
All right. In another game, we had the Ottawa Red Blacks beat Montreal 28-18. It was a game where the Red Blacks basically controlled it for three quarters and then had to white-knuckle their way through a fourth-quarter comeback attempt by the Montreal Alouettes. I know that, Brian, we weren't big on Mike Sherman, but this team has gotten better.
They have gotten better. I think the problem being, they were so bad.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, they're a better form of bad, but they're still bad. They have gotten better, but it just, when you're that bad, just to be this much better, I mean, it's just like you're still bad. They were down 28-8 going into fourth quarter. They got 10 points. I mean, the game really never felt in doubt. Trevor Harris had a fantastic game, and I was really impressed with William Powell running the football. Put up some great. I think he had like 140 yards rushing, something like that. So I mean, it was really it wasn't as close as the final score indicates.
Yeah, and I think because of guys like William Powell, 138 yards, Robert, running the ball, you combine that with Trevor Harris's 28 for 42 for 342 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think right now you have to look at Ottawa as one of maybe 3 teams that have kind of separated themselves from each other.
I think Ottawa is definitely one of the more dominant teams in the CFL. Powell definitely, it's always good to my heart when I see a running back go out there and be as dominant and be as effective as they possibly can, because it takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback. That's what he used to say that to me all the time. It's like, Robert, you give me 100 yards and we can win this game easily. And he used to, encourage me to go out there and be able to, to do the things that I did as a football player. So to watch, to watch Ottawa, do what they did, and I'd say, I was looking at the stat, and in 4 games, Montreal has given up 130 plus points. I mean, they can't stop anybody in defense. I don't think at any point this game was really in factor of being lost, and the simple fact that, Ottawa just, I don't think that they didn't give up, but Ottawa just took them lightly in the fourth quarter. That's where that comeback came from. And I can say that because I've done it myself in games. You take your foot off the gas pedal when you have a team beaten, and that team gets some light, they get some spark, and they try and make it run, but they're still the more dominant team and you win. But I do really think Ottawa is one of the top 3 tier teams, like you said, in the CFL this year, so far this season.
All right, then we go to another game that I think was somewhat of a surprise. We had the Argonauts, who were winless, led by James Franklin, threw for 217 yards, tossed a touchdown, ran for another in his starting debut for the Argos on Saturday. The 26-year-old outdueled Edmonton's Mike Riley, who he just didn't play as well as he normally does. Toronto gets the win 20-17, but I think we all kind of know going into this, Robert, that Toronto was not going to continue to lose the way they were. This is still, even without Ricky Ray, it's a team that was good enough to win the Grey Cup last year. And as you talk, James Franklin is a very good, backup quarterback in this league. And James Wilder got back to the form that he showed last year from midseason on, ran for 120 yards.
Toronto's a good team. They just haven't struggled earlier this year. It's not often you're going to outduel Mike Riley. Let's just say that for starters. And we all know Toronto is, the defending Grey Cup champion. So, we know they weren't going to be down for long. Franklin stepped in and did an adequate job. Can he keep it up and do it all year long? That is yet to be seen. It's still an early season. We're only 4 games into the season. But he had a very, very good game against a very, very good team. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on with them going forward.
Yeah, and Brian, I don't know so much that Franklin outdueled him, because Riley was 28 for 40, 370 yards, a touchdown and interception. I think the difference here was James Wilder running for 120 yards, 6 yards a carry. But the one thing that Edmonton has to take away from this is their defense has played better the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they have definitely played better. You just would like, I think you just would like to see them put it all together right now. And this game, I think it was just as much as, Riley put up numbers. At the end of the day, you only score 17 points. It's hard to win football games. So They had no running game to speak of. So that was, certainly disappointing. But, I think Edmonton's still gonna be definitely, I think they're one of those three teams right now. But, Toronto, give it up for them because, again, without Ricky Ray, we've been kind of waiting for this and then seeing, James Wilder do what he's done, last year and really come out and lead the way with that running game. I think this puts Toronto back in the pack. We know Toronto's got a decent defense. So, really, that's just going to be the key right now.
All right, and then we had the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and this is a team, Brian and Robert, that I think is the other team up there with Ottawa and them, especially now that Matt Nichols is back. He looked sharp in his first game back, finished with 162 yards, a 20-yard touchdown pass. But this team really leaned on the CFL's top rushing attack, led by Andrew Harris. Adam Bighill made a huge contribution also. And am I crazy here, Brian, or is this Winnipeg team as good as anybody when they're healthy?
I think they're as good as anybody when they're healthy, and this proved it. Matt Nichols, I said this last year, I think that, he's quickly becoming a guy that sometimes people don't think about as one of the top quarterbacks, but I mean, he proves it last year. I think just very efficient. And this was another game where when you look at the stat line, I think it was 16-29, 182 yards, a touchdown. And you kind of, okay stats, but his efficiency and the way that he runs the offense and bottom line is this, Andrew Harris is an outstanding running back, proves it again. They're able to run the football. So, this is I think they're one of the top teams when they're healthy, and I think they're a definite threat.
Yeah, and Robert, I think there's trouble in BC with Jonathan Jennings. I mean, 2 interceptions again. We bring it up every week. This team's in trouble. The one thing I did hear, it was reported by Third Down Nation about a hour ago, that Travis Lulay is like 90% healthy. Does it really matter who plays quarterback for this team, though? Because this is a team that has some talent, but I just don't think it's there this year.
I think BC is just trying to force a lot of things right now. Jennings is just making mistake after mistake after mistake because he's, they're pressed to win. They're pressed to make plays. When you're an athlete, you're pressed to win, you're pressed to make plays, you go out there and make mistakes. It's tough on BT right now because, you have all the naysayers coming out, and as you say before, the boo birds coming out. No player ever wants to get booed. And every player wants to go out there and perform as the best they should. And it starts from the quarterback down. No matter what you think, no matter what you say about any team, in all my 15 years of professional sports, the quarterback was the one that always caught the slack. And whether we won games or you got the glory when we won, you got the heat when we lost. So Jennings is in a tough position right now.
Yeah, and we'll go to Winnipeg with you, Robert, since you didn't get to talk about them yet. Are you as impressed with them as me and Brian are? Because the thing that really stands out to me, their roster is complete, and now you've added Chris Streveler, who played well in Matt Nichols' absence, so you have a backup quarterback there also. I think they're one of those 3 teams I was talking about, of course, with Calgary and Ottawa.
The funny thing is, the biggest key, I think, and Winnipeg wasn't my surprise team to lead, but they're the team, like, in my mind, who I picked to win it all this year. Anyway, but Andrew Harris, I mean, he coming from my own heart and playing in so many Grey Cups and winning them, every quarterback and every Grey Cup team would tell you that it's a running back that sets the tone for the offense to be able to go out there and accomplish the things they need to do, because running backs, the running game, I won't say running backs because it's the linemen also, they control the clock. And when you control the clock, especially in a CFL game, you control the time, you can control everything. And Andrew Harris is their big key moneymaker right now. I like Nichols, but Harris is where it's at for me.
Well, where it's at with me with this team, from what I've seen, is the offensive line.
Yes.
If you put Jonathan Jennings behind that offensive line, he'd probably be all right because he's not getting rushed into mistakes. Nichols gets to stand back there, has all day, plus he's got Harris to hand off to. And really, to me, I think that's why right now Calgary and Winnipeg are the number 1 and 2 teams, because I think they're the best teams up front.
I agree. It's the front 5 that really makes – the front 5 sets the tone for offense. The front 5 sets the tone for the dialogue about how the game's going to be played, especially in the offensive line. So and they're both teams are doing a great job right now.
All right, that brings us to the Week 5 games. We've got Calgary at Ottawa, which is a great matchup. I'll start it off, and I'm just going to dive in head first and hope the pool's not a foot deep. I'm going to pick Ottawa in the upset here, Robert.
Ooh, I've got to. You know what? Calgary's consistent. Calgary's the team. Calgary's the New England Patriots, of the CFL. They always just. Manage as much as as I also Ottawa and think they're a good team. Calgary's just a consistent team, and they know how to win, especially in clutch time.
All right, Schmidt, am I crazy? I don't mean generally. I mean
you're not crazy.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was talking about the pick, but yeah,
okay.
You're crazy anyway. But
yeah, I know that.
You're not crazy, but I got to go with Calgary for the same reason. It's the New England Patriots thing with Calgary is I want to pick Ottawa. I really want to pick Ottawa. Ottawa's at home. Ottawa's playing well. But Calgary is that team that whether they're at home and especially on the road, they go in there and they just make it happen. So I'm going to go with Calgary. Yes, they are. And I'm going to go with Calgary. They're just a hard team to go against.
But they're not going to go 18-0, so I think every time they play Winnipeg or Ottawa, I'm just going to pick Winnipeg or Ottawa, and I'll get it right one of these times. The next game, Robert, we'll let you start off. Your old team, the Toronto Argonauts, at the Edmonton Eskimos.
Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna go with Toronto. I just think Toronto, like, as we said. I think Mike Riley is a heck of a quarterback for Edmonton. I think he's doing a good job, but I just think Toronto's going to find a way, to go out there and get it done. They're a good team. They're the defending Grey Cup champions. And this early in the season, that'll eventually kick in mentally for them, and it's 30% mental, 30% physical, and 30% what the player does on the field. So I just have to go to Toronto because just defense like that, I think Toronto won this game.
All right, Schmidt.
This one I keep going back and forth on because I agree with everything Robert just said, but I'm going to take Edmonton at home. I'm gonna say they're going to play better. But I think this again, much like Calgary, Ottawa, this has the makings to be a great football game. And I think this is one that's going to come down to the wire, but I think Edmonton will pull this one out.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Edmonton just for the fact that Toronto just beat them. Mike Riley, it's hard to beat him twice in a row. That's the only reason I'm going with it, because I think these teams are actually fairly evenly matched. Next game, Brian, Winnipeg Blue Bombers at the BC Lions.
Winnipeg. And there's just no way to go with BC. Winnipeg.
Yeah, I'm going Winnipeg big also. I think by double digits. What do you think, Robert?
Unless Winnipeg doesn't show up for the game, Winnipeg. Winnipeg's the more dominant team.
All right, guys. There's no Montreal this week, so they're not going to lose since they're on a bye week. We've only got 3 games to pick. What's your take, real quick, Schmidt, on Travis Lulay? Do you think he would make an impact if he could come back and play for the Lions?
He helps, but as far as making them a contender, no.
Yeah, I agree.
The situation absolutely does, but make them a contender, no.
All right, Robert, you agree?
Yeah. Enough to make a difference in what's going on in D.C.? No. Enough to possibly just give some excitement to the game in D.C.? Yeah. But he's not going to change the dynamics of what's going on in D.C.
Yeah. I agree completely. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. We got a short week this week because we only had 3 games. Brian, any final closing comments?
I'll tell you, I think people really need to enjoy Calgary, Ottawa on Thursday and Toronto, Edmonton on Friday. I think those are 2 really solid CFL games that I think will be fun to watch.
All right, Robert?
We always say, football players, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, this is only the 5th game of the season. 18 regular season games played, so it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and a lot of it's luck, who gets hurt and who stays healthy also.
Injuries are a part of the game.
Yep. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up tonight. Remember, you can listen to Survive in Advance at noon, Monday through Friday. Tomorrow, we've got Josh Raymond, who is a Major League Baseball beat writer, to talk about the first half of the Major League Baseball season. Next week, we don't have the date finalized yet, but on Survive in Advance, we'll have Oliver Luck, who's the new commissioner of the XFL. So keep an eye out on our Twitter, @GrillingTruth, for any updates there. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts. You'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Brian Schmidt, Robert Drummond, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.